I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WCLM Community Podcast, also known as the Women of Color and Leadership Music Movement Community Podcast. And I am Shauna Hawk, aka Lady Hawk. And we are doing a really special interview today, a whole series. And just to give you a little bit of a background and backstory, we are focusing in on the Afro Hawaiian experience. And so that's what we're calling it right now. We might evolve and to call it, a couple of different things as we do more of these interviews around this topic. The Afro Hawaiian experience right now is African Americans and other folks of African descent that ended up living in Hawaii, growing up in Hawaii for whatever reason. As some of you may know, I've shared in some of my stories and interviews before, I actually was born in New York and raised in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii at a very young age and spent my elementary, junior high, and high school years and early adult years in Hawaii before I came back to the mainland. And so that was a really culturally developed who I was, and I had a lot of interesting experiences and a lot of learning that went on there. And a lot of it had to do with, after I grew up and lived more life, I realized that was an amazing cultural immersion and experience for me. So I wanted to explore some of that, the beautiful parts about it, some of the challenges. And today I have a very special guest, someone who I met when I was in junior high, and we connected ever since then. And this beautiful woman has been so instrumental in my life and different journeys in my life. And we've, been living apart in different states and came back together and just, and it's because of women like her that I really, came to the understanding that in our mission, the Women of Color and Leadership Movement, stories like this were very important. Our different cultural experiences, our different backgrounds, the things that make us who we are. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my friend and this beautiful woman, talented woman, Yvonne. And Yvonne, I'm gonna have you tell us your full name because it's beautiful, and I want people to hear what that is. So tell us what your full name is.
All right, aloha, ahi everyone. My name is Yvonne Hoskey. I'm actually a Reiki practitioner. I specialize in spiritual counseling, Reiki healing, chakra balancing, chakra cleansing, ancestral cord cutting, shamanic drumming. And actually, I got into the spiritual healing 7 years ago. I've been a Reiki practitioner about 4 years ago, but I actually been a chef and a culinary art instructor for about 20 years of my life.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And now can you say your full name? Because you got a couple of Hawaiian middle names.
Well, actually, my full name is Yvonne Hoskey. But okay. Yes, I come from Hawaii. So yes, a lot of my family members, I'm the only one out of all my sisters and brothers, which is 9 of us, that didn't get the Hawaiian name. I was named actually after 2 of my aunts.
Okay.
So most of my sisters and brothers, actually, they all have Hawaiian names.
Now tell us, like your family dynamic and background and the mixture and how that came about.
Okay, so I'm originally from the island of Oahu, Hawaii, and I have 9 brothers, 9 brothers and sisters, so 9 siblings. There's 3 brothers, 6 girls, and so when my dad met my mom was pregnant with my brother, so she had 3 children, and she was also pregnant. And he was in the military when my dad came to Hawaii, and we say Hawaii, that's how we usually pronounce it. And they met my dad was about 21 when he met my mom, and she was pregnant with my brother. And from then on, they married at 25 and had four more children, which was actually 3 girls and another boy. And that's how I came in.
Now you're also to the racial background. So your dad was African American, am I correct on that?
Yes. So my dad is from actually Houston, Texas. So he's African American, Irish, and Cherokee Indian. And my mom is a native there in Hawaii, so she's actually Polynesian, which we call Hawaiian. She's Chinese, Portuguese, and Spanish. So we
Mm.
have a lot of different mixed culture in us.
And one thing that really, when I first met you, we was hanging out, and I met your family. Your mom was a brown skin, local woman. Which, if you look at the media today, they often would show us the lighter skin, maybe even more Asian persuasion,
Yes, yes.
thin. And from what I had learned beforehand, and then also seeing now, just to seeing the culture, is that the women were very, beautiful, voluptuous, brown, the original Hawaiians, curly hair. So when I saw your mom, I knew there was something else there, but she also looked African American to me to a degree. So, tell me about it.
Yes, you're totally right. I truly believe, I can't say, but I truly believe from what I've heard throughout the years growing up, that actually Hawaiians is African descendants. We have African and Asian culture. That's how we got, I guess, Polynesian or Hawaiians. Polynesians are from different, or actually indigenous people from that resides on the different Hawaiian islands. But I do believe that Hawaiians are mixed with African American. And yes, a lot of my relatives, my family, my mom, my grandmother, all my uncles and aunts are all brown skin, dark brown skin. I also went to school with people that was Hawaiian, but way darker than me.
Mm-hmm. And imagery, is something that we do here. We always investigate in culture, especially as women of color, but also with our partner organization, Media Island International, we understand that the imagery and what's put forth is really representation really matters. So having that good, diverse look, when people think about Hawaii, or most people here in the mainland or whatnot, they think about lighter skin, they think even, it's just so interesting to see that. You'll see the white mixture, or what we used to call haole, mixture with Hawaiian, or that lightens things up, and so that's what they'll put in the media. But it's really important that folks know that we that the brownness
Yes, yes,
exists, the
yes.
blackness is there, the Afro descent is there. Now tell me some of the because as we were talking, and you were telling me some of the beautiful memories and things that you have on growing up on the island, and some of the foods. And as we can hear you talk, we hear your accent, your language, and sometimes you'll be dropping some of the Hawaiian language. So tell me a little bit more of that.
I know I try to speak a little bit more clear English because
No, we can understand. It's beautiful.
because when I first actually came here to the States, my language was so terrible that no one really could understand. We call it broken English. But actually the foods that we eat from the Hawaiian Islands is usually from, we grew up on the island. Was most of the foods came from the ocean, the sea, So I remember like growing up, being little, we had to go to the ocean, the beach, and we had to pick up limu, which was like seaweed. So, some people call them ogo. So that's how we mix our seaweed within our food, that gave our food the nutrients, and it also made our food taste better. So yes, most of our foods came from the ocean because my grandfather was a fisherman, and so was my uncle. So they all went out. They used to go early in the mornings before the sun rise, and they go and lay the nets, and they catch all kind of aku, ahi, shrimps, crabs, whatever they could get within the nets. And then before the sun go down, they'll pull all the nets in, and the women will meet them at the beach shore, and we'll just pull all the fishes and the crabs and whatever they catch, and clean it right there at the beach and cook it and just have a good time. So I have a lot of good memories growing up because everything we did, everything was always family.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now you also have some family on one of the other islands, or maybe a couple of the other islands.
Yes, I
Tell
have
me.
a lot of family. I have the Big Island. I have Kauai, Maui, Molokai. So, and also the Robinson family that lives actually on, I think, Niihau. They're second cousins to us. So that's a private island that no one is able to go to unless you are family.
Oh, okay, so is that like unless you have like Hawaiian blood and your family and
Yes,
that kind
yes,
of thing? Okay,
yes.
that is
So it's
so
one of the
beautiful.
practices.
And I think the recapturing that the locals that y'all locals are doing as far as like reclaiming your language, because that was, it was, from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you were, let me get the words out right. The language was discouraged by the missionaries and what have you, and the colonizers who tried to come, but y'all are doing this whole reclaiming. Tell me about that.
Yes, so back in the days, actually, yes. So I believe it was I can't remember, it was one of the queens that when she when the missionaries came, she ended up changing her religion to Christianity. So she had stopped like the hula dancing and the Hawaiian languages, you know,
Was
because
that Lily? Was that Lily Okalani?
yes, I want to say it probably was Lilo
Maybe.
Kalani. I don't want to
Yeah.
say it was Lilo Kalani because I'm not sure, but I
Okay.
know it was
Okay.
one of the queens
One
that
of them. Yeah. One of them. Yeah.
yes. And I know that yes, she had stopped, when she turned Christian, that she had stopped all, what they call it, pagan, that she had stopped all the Hawaiian languages and the hula dancing, because they call it kapu, which is like danger, which is something that is, nothing that the Hawaiians should be participating in, put it that way. So it was
Wow.
like something that they kind of like stopped the Hawaiians from doing because the
Wow.
missionaries made it seem like it was I guess if it wasn't,
Christian, it was evil.
yes, everything was.
Hmm. And that's such a, oh, go ahead.
So hula was actually a way of how we told our stories, our, not even just past stories, but even like the stories today, so hula was a sign of storytelling, our history, how we spoke of, our history of how we lived here in Hawaii, or it was also that we used for events, or we danced for like the king and queen for royalties, or even like, for like May Day. That was one of the biggest thing in Hawaii for everyone was May Day, was celebrating the kings and queens of all the islands, all the Hawaiian islands.
That's so beautiful. And it's such a story that's so common when we look at indigenous, Africans, indigenous Native Americans, and Pacific Islanders like yourself. It's like, stop, take away from their cultures, their beliefs, their spiritual practices, the foods even. And I, the colonization is just, as we know, it's still a thing that a lot of us are healing from, trying to get away from. But I really admired, like, one of the things that my mom had us do before we moved to Hawaii, I was about 8 years old when I moved there, was learn a lot about the culture. And so that was the, and the books that we were looking at, they people was brown with afros. And so,
Yes, yes, yes,
and now,
yes.
you can, when they show us the different islands and stuff, they'll talk about Fiji. And that's where you'll see more that look really, really more African descent. But that was it seems like that was more than just Fiji.
Oh yes, Fiji, Melanesia. Have you seen the people are very dark. They look like Africans, but they have very good hair there.
Okay. So so tell me some more about, dance is one thing that we really, and you talk about your healing work and your Reiki work. Have you found that as you're recapturing and as you do hula and whatnot, that also helps with that healing and that physical healing?
I have, because I learned a lot about energy, and I learned all about vibrations and frequencies. So I realized that hula was a way of, how we moved energy when we danced and we swayed. It was all about how we moved our energy and how the energy moved around us. And for me, chanting and singing, which we call mele, to me, that was more of, the vibrations and the frequencies that came out through our dancing, because each dance told a story, which was really, really interesting, because every story, every dance had a meaning.
And as I'm listening to you talk and I'm hearing your accent, and I hear the local, or the, as you call it, the broken English, but I also hear the Southern background. And I think language is so fascinating depending on where you live. Like people hear me, they'll hear a little bit of New York once in a while, especially if I'm around another New Yorker. But then when I get around a Pacific Islander like you and families around it, you know, my daughters will tell me, Mom, you're talking different. And
Yes.
it's so interesting how it clicks in, but I hear you're Southern along with your broken English.
It's because I've been in the States for a long time, but at the same time, like what you're right. When I get around my people and I get around people that understand me now, I can kind of like relax and just speak my language, because you know we speak a whole different language. To me, I don't know, it's all about the language. Is like so much love in that language, because in Hawaii, you know, we speak the pidgin language, of course, you know, which is we don't say a lot of English words correctly. You know, like mother, father. It took me a long time to even pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my broken English was always like mara, fara, sister, brother. That's how, you know, the local people talk. Our ERs are more DAs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, so I had to learn a lot coming to the States. There's a lot of things I had to learn in the States. I had to learn that people couldn't be trusted in the States. Totally different than back home. Back home is, you know, trust is an honor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you lose that trust, you lose everything. Like you lose your family. You know, ohana is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So everything, you know, respect it plays a big role and a big factor in the Hawaiian culture. You know, your elders or your uncles, your aunties, you know, they're your friends, you know, they're your cousins. You know, there ain't no friends. They're relatives. You know, even if there are friends and there's somebody, even a stranger that comes into your life, no, they're family. Ohana.
And you know what? And that sounds so beautiful. And that's one of the things, like when I first met you, you was like, girl, come over to my house. And you know, and that's one of the things that I really miss coming back to the States, because the people in Hawaii were so genuine and loving to me. It's like once they say that you're family, you know, you're family, and I feel it. And you know, back again to the language a little bit, because I remember, you know, when we get together, it's so funny because I could tell when you said feel comfortable that you know that you're around me, and you know that, oh yeah, Shauna knows. I don't gotta correct, you know what I'm saying? You know, so you that old Yvonne comes back and people ain't heard nothing yet until we
Oh
get
yes, oh yes. It gets real bad, believe me. Then you be like, huh, what? What did she say?
right. And you know what? And that's the thing too, because it's actually being bilingual. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, I know our languages are like, for me, it would be our slang, you know, certain, you know, at home language. It's code switching, right? And so
Yes,
when
yes.
we're, you know, in a formal setting, it's like, okay, yes, such and such and such. But when we get comfortable, and and it's nothing wrong with that. They're both just as valid languages. And so letting folks know that pidgin, that broken English,
Oh yeah.
is a beautiful, beautiful, as well as the natural, you know, Hawaiian language is all beautiful. But you know, we come to the States, it gets ranked, you know, but it sounds so beautiful, Yvonne. And so to touch on, because you get the family and just feel the genuineness, but you talking to me again also about noticing the individualistic, you know, vibe that you get from States versus Hawaii. Talk some more
Yes,
about.
yes. So when my first time actually coming to the States, you know, I guess, you know, I'm a Black Hawaiian girl, but everybody look at me. Of course, if you look at me, I look like I'm just Black. You know, but when
Mm-hmm.
you talk to me, everybody like, okay, well, she's not from here. So some of my racism when I came to the States was from Black, I say females, because a lot of them wouldn't accept me because I never spoke their language. And my, you know, my pidgin was really, really bad then. I was really broken English. And my first experience was having a neighbor being there. I think I was there maybe 2 weeks in the States. She needed to use the phone. She had no phone. I allowed her in my house. She used the phone and stole my money.
Oh,
And I was like shocked because I just helped you and you stole from me. Like where we come from, you don't do stuff like that. That's disrespectful, you know. And Hawaii is all about aloha. It's all about love. It's about helping one another. It's about if you got something and you can help somebody else, help them. And that's what that's what I did. But to have someone steal from me for the first time living in the States, that was really different for me. I confronted her though, because I told her where we come from. We don't play that, you know. I don't know where you
right.
from, but we don't play that.
Wow. And that's definitely like the coldness that I feel like. Now I'm currently in Washington State, and there is definitely that, I'm an hour outside of Seattle, but Seattle's known for its Seattle freeze, and trust me, that is real. The people are mean.
That was a wake up call.
Yeah, I mean, the coldness, the whole, and of course you get it, like when we were in Virginia together, people were definitely more real, and more not as loving and accepting as in Hawaii, but definitely different. So it's so interesting how you go from state to state and people are different too. But that Hawaiian welcoming and that feeling that I got was definitely, especially from the families that had the Black Hawaiians, either the Black mother, or the Black father, there was a mixture, but then there was also challenges. And for me personally, as an African American coming in and not being adopted into the culture, but not a part of it, I got a lot of anti-Blackness from, I would say, more of the lighter skinned, non-mixed Black folks. And that was hard for me growing up. That was hard, even when I lived on Maui. And then, I came back to Oahu. A lot of the N words, and I know we're gonna talk more about that, but moving into the challenges, having kids that look very much like me, sometimes even darker than me, calling me the N word. I'm gonna say it because I can say it. There's a way they would say it that was different from meuli, popolo, or niga, effing niga. It was the way it was said that had a different flair.
Yes,
and it was just it was really hard. It was really hard for me to see that, and also to see that Black men in particular had a different story sometimes, and I didn't understand that for the longest time. They seem to have it better, not perfect. Some of them had but not as hard as it was for like me as a Black girl and other Black girls that I knew. So that was really, I know we're gonna dive deeper into that in some future interviews, but tell me your thoughts on that.
For me, I had a few challenges. I mean, I have to say a lot of them I blocked out, but I had a few challenges, like I remember, I was brought up in the hood area of Hawaii. So, we started off with Pololo and then went to Kalihi housing, and my aunt lived in Kui Park Terrace, was one of the roughest part of Hawaii. And my dad was Black. So the first time I want to say that I seen racism happen, I think I was young. I had to be maybe, I want to say about 9-10 years old. And I remember, my dad used to do a lot for the community. He was actually the president of the community in Kalihi housing. So he was the one that was, responsible in having all the different events and stuff for the local people there. So he did a lot of stuff for the community. And I remember these Samoan family moved into the community. And I guess my dad was walking around the community and one of the Samoan guy had approached my dad, and had called him a nigger. And evidently, my dad was a very, very humble person. So my dad tried to walk away. He wanted to fight with my dad. So somehow someone ran back to the house because, my family was well known there, and told my brother. Now my brother, Melvin, he's the middle brother. He looked more local because he was my dad's stepson. So he came from a Hawaiian father. Mm-hmm. So I had brothers and sisters that looked totally different from me, because we had different fathers. Mm-hmm. So he looked at real local. He was very big, in stature, and he already was crazy type of, like he didn't take nothing from nobody. And so when he heard that was going on with my dad, he ran there with a shovel, and he approached the guy that had spoke to my dad and had said some unkind words to my dad. And so they ended up fighting. The guy's family came out and started fighting with my brother. My uncle didn't end up pulling up, and they started fighting. So yeah, that's kind of like how it went. But after that, after everything went down, they found out who my dad was. They came, they apologized, and everybody in the neighborhood respected my dad because my dad was not only just well known, my dad did a lot of good and positive things for the community.
That's beautiful. That's an intense story. But that's real. That's how I got to go down sometimes. We got to let you know who you're dealing with.
Yes, and I fought a few times, like for my sisters, some of the Samoan girls used to be teasing her, and I would stand up for her. But to me, I mean, I've been teased I say a few times. There's a lot of times, I guess it's been avoided only because of who our brother was. A lot of people feared our brother, so a lot of people knew not to mess with us because they was afraid of our brother. So we kind of got by on a lot of stuff.
Wow, thank you for that. That's I I didn't get by, but I didn't have a lot of fights though either. People would they would call me the name nigga and run. So I think the energy wise, and also too, when I made friends with folks like you, and my foster family, there was also Black Hawaiian, it was just okay, well-known families. It's so interesting that Black Hawaiian mix they end up being these families that are very well known in the community. That's a pattern that I see.
You're right. You are
definitely. So now in the school, when I first got out there, I remember that one of the requirements was to learn about Hawaiian history, even though my mother was real intentional about teaching me Hawaiian history, because I think she wanted me to know that there was a connection to where we're going to move and to us, because she was really, she wasn't formal educationally, educated. I mean, she did some community college, but she picked up a book and wanted to travel, what I'm saying, and wanted to find other Black folks around the world. So she was one of, she would be that one that I had my Black dolls. We knew that Egyptians were Black and Egypt is in Africa, one of those, right? So we go to another person's culture and learn about the amazing things that were in that culture. So in school, the requirement was to learn about Hawaiian history, which I fully agree with and fully know. Tell me how that experience was for you.
For me, that's all I knew. I mean, I only knew the Hawaiian culture. I knew nothing about the Black culture, which is shocking because I just didn't, even though my dad came from Houston, from Texas, he never really, spoken too much about the Black culture. So for us, it was we seen a few people that was our color, that was from the States, they never talked like us, they never act like us, but they were our color, but for me, I just see myself as a native there. We call ourselves local, so that's how I was a local girl there living in Hawaii. I had a few challenges, with people, racism, but most of the time, I have to say that I had a really, really great life there. I mean, everything was, I have to say, because we lived simple lives there in Hawaii. Hawaii was never about material. That was the last thing people cared about. Everything was all about helping each other, bonding, coming together as a family, no matter where you were on the island. We always found a way to get together, whether it was camping, attending parties over, my grandma's house, or my grandpa's house, or an auntie and uncle house. That's just the way it was in Hawaii. It was all about family, ohana. That's the most important thing. Family was everything.
That's beautiful. Now you was mentioning about your culinary arts. Do you implement a lot of the Hawaiian foods in your recipes?
I do. I love Hawaiian food. So yes, my poi. So we have to make poi because back in Hawaii you can just buy the bag, but in the States you have to find a taro.
Right.
So that's what we usually find, the taro, boil the taro, the luau leaf. They call it different in the States. So I just found some. I realized Indians, I say Indians, but not native Indians.
From India?
Yes, from India. They eat taro also. They eat the leaf. So they call the luau leaf patra. Okay. So I usually go and find some of my Hawaiian food there, my leaves there. So yes, I mean, I still cook my cultural food here. I sure do.
That is so beautiful, girl. And I'm wanting to, when we get together, I'm want some recipes.
Yes,
and to taste your cooking. Yeah, I know your cooking is bomb. So Do you also, like in your Reiki and healing work, do you also use some of the well, let me start off by this. I had someone tell me as I was like reflecting on my life and experiences in Hawaii. They said those Hawaiian gods, because it was when I was learning about the African deities, gods and goddesses, especially Oya, Shango.
Mm.
Um, and I always, when I was in Hawaii, I always like would gravitate toward, when I heard about Pele, that was always an energy that I gravitated toward. So this guy told me once, he said, those Hawaiian gods and goddesses watched over you while
Yeah.
you were out there. And I was like, oh my God, that just warmed my heart, because I felt that way. I felt that. So do you, tell me, do you implement some of the Hawaiian spiritual practice in your work, and or you starting to do that
I
now?
sure do. So, for the ancestral cord cutting, I implement Ho'oponopono. So I'm sure that most of the Hawaiians know what Ho'oponopono is. So Ho'oponopono is actually a method that you use, that Hawaiians used back in the days, for forgiveness. It's all about just really just apologizing for taking responsibility, put it that way, for everything that you've ever done in life, or if you've done anything for someone. So there was like 4 phrases that you use in Ho'oponopono, and I use for my spiritual practice. And the phrases was always, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. So it's all about kind of like finding that space, and speaking those words, using compassion out of your heart, and truly speaking those words, and just making things right with the people that you've wronged, and making things right for yourself. It's a healing process for yourself. And most of the Hawaiians used it, throughout the Hawaiian tradition for millennium, for years, and that's all a method of healing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, Now, what are some of the before we get ready to like wind up a little bit, some techniques or some tips for folks that may be looking for ways to connect with their own personal culture, and their own spiritual practice, that you kind of give people when you have when you do your work?
Well, for me, I always, I always say you change your mind, you change your life. That's the most important thing. What you think is what you create. So I always try to tell my people, I always try to tell them to speak at least 3 affirmations. When you wake up in the morning, always say 3 grateful things, 3 things that you're grateful for, and say 3 affirmations about yourself, and even say a mantra. I mean, there's so many healing modalities out there. There's yoga, there's meditation, going within. I feel that whatever that you're comfortable, even if it's listening to positive music, something that is uplifting, that is, uplifting your spirit, I feel that anything that you're doing that's positive, that's making a difference in your life, that you should go for. For me, it's always affirmations, and it's always things that I'm grateful for, because the more grateful you are for the things that you have, the more you receive.
Ashe, that is so true, so true. So, any before we close out, any last words, or I mean that's what you just said now was beautiful. But any last words or anything that you want us to know? And we will be doing more. This is going to be a series, so we're going to be doing more, getting more information and insight from you, and also other family members and other local folks in the future. So, yeah, any last words you want to tell us?
I feel for me, well, for me, my goal is to touch, heal, and inspire as many people as I can that comes across my path in this lifetime. And to me, to always exhibit aloha. And what I mean by that, aloha is something that is unconditional. It has no judgment, and I feel that's the biggest thing here, here on earth, that no one truly, exhibit love. I ain't gonna say no one. There's people that do, but there's people that needs that love. And aloha is everything. It means everything. Aloha, you don't judge people by their race, by their color of skin. It's just something that you truly give. It's a feeling that, I don't know, you have to feel on earth to experience it, And I just love, and that's what I truly want to do in my life, and that's what I truly want to do as a person. I wanted to be the best version of myself, and I think that for everyone, just work on being the best version of you.
Ashe, ashe. Mahalo. Yeah, you get my words right. Right. Thank you so much. And for our listeners and also our viewers out there, we're gonna have this again, like I said, we're gonna have more on this topic. This is it's a really good example of cross-cultural connection, learning and healing. So much more to explore. So thank y'all for listening, and be good to yourself.
Amen.
Peace.
Aloha.
Whoa. This one is for me, loved ones. Yeah. Whoa. This one is for me, loved ones. Said I can help the way I feel when I open up. Loved ones that I've lost, we don't keep in touch. Never keeping still, everybody's in a rush. Never thought I'd be a pride that be killing us. And I'm just speaking.